Good. Well, hopefully everyone else is doing well out there as well. Tonight we've got, we're pretty packed actually. We got 3 pieces, all from people who have submitted before. The first one, I believe, is pretty long, too, so we're probably going to dive into it. But before we do, I'd like to do kind of a little intro segment here. If you want to submit to the show and have your write-in on the show and stuff like that, you can do so at write.onair@gmail.com.
That is WRITE.onair@gmail.com. Please submit. We love reading your work.
Yeah. And we have, our email, we have a Facebook page, we have a YouTube page.
Yep.
All of those are linked on the email. You can find them up right on air at gmail.com or write.onair@gmail.com. There's the Facebook page, Write On Air, and YouTube, Write On Air. Yep. So you can find us on most things. I've passed on the Instagram and Twitter feed. I apologize for all of you who hope that I have one, but that's the line I won't cross, unfortunately. I can only do so much social media in my free time. But I think that's usually how it goes. This is a show that gives writers a place to air their writing, poetry, short stories, whatever they want. As I've said in the past, we are the frame, you guys are the art.
And as always, we will say this is a casual, safe space. Not only are we here to air your pieces, we're here to air you. Come into the studio, email us, we'll arrange it, and, come be on. It's wonderful when we can ask the author about the piece.
Yes, please. I've been so wrong on many interpretations that we've had before. Not horribly wrong, but many times I've had a couple authors walk up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, Kevin, that was pretty cool, but you were just a little bit off, unfortunately." Just want to say that. Is Brandon's chuckling in the corner over there. Go ahead, Brandon. What are you going to say?
Nothing.
Fair enough. He's keeping my reputation intact. Thank you. Well, let's get into this first piece. This is by A.E. Kellogg. This is Limina. I believe she submitted this a while back, but I don't think I had a chance to read it at the time we were doing shorter pieces, and this one is a little bit of a longer piece. So it was a little bit harder to squeeze in, but we have it now, so we're going to go ahead and get into it. This is Limina by A.E. Kellogg. You've had an imaginary friend when you were little, remember? The first time you met it, you were sleeping over at your friend's house. You were awake in the middle of the night and heard it moving, and assumed it was just your friend's dog. But your friend didn't have a dog. Besides, it wasn't really dog-shaped so much as it was wind-colored or plant-sounding. It kneeled down beside your sleeping bag and smiled, and since you were raised to be polite, you smiled back and shook its hand. That could have been a dream, but you remembered it too well. 5 weeks later, you were the last one left at school. It was winter break. Everyone else was long gone, but you'd stayed after for a club meeting and your mom was caught in holiday traffic. You slouched against the wall, legs splayed across the hallway, knocking your knees together. Staff drifted by and offered you the occasional Pop-Tart. You accepted one, but didn't eat it. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw another pair of knees knocking together. A bite was missing from your untasted Pop-Tart. It snowed last week. You were the first to wake up when the light through your curtains was 2 shades the wrong color and a set of many-jointed fingers brushed across your face. You tried to explain this manifestation to your mom once and to your friends. Your mother wondered if you were having some non-scary dream about a monster in your closet. Perhaps if she let you watch Monsters, Inc. a few too many times. But that was ridiculous, you knew. There was something so tangibly different from the feeling of the floorboards under your legs and oil seeping into your skin from the popcorn, leaving salt in the corner of your mouth as you watched doors shuffle like cards on a screen. Your imaginary friend had spent lots of time in factories. You correctly guessed. But never could it have pushed a button. Remember when you were 16? That driver's license, brand new, clutched in your hand, in the dusty smelling sunlight in the front of the DMV? Remember when you were 18? Around 3 a.m., the morning of your birthday, you Googled how to remove a window screen, and something outside your bedroom helped you tug the black barrier out of place. Remember the road trip? You wasted no time after buying that scratched-up, faded, beat-down car. You were over the mountains and far away before your mother could voice all her concerns about you going alone. You weren't going alone. You stopped in the mountains at one point to wander through some trees. You found a little babbling brook there. With the wind in the pines, and the water over the stones, and all the other tiny roaring sounds of nature, there could have been anyone sneaking up behind you and you wouldn't know. You stopped for gas at midnight and ran into the 7-Eleven to beg for their restroom. You never did see the eyes of the person who handed you the keys. You ate breakfast at 100 million McDonald's. They were all identical. You got lost in every one of them. The door you entered through was never the same one you left, and there were more left corners in the walls than right. The company was good, though, when you spotted it from the corner of your eye, in the empty booth directly across from you. You bought Pop-Tarts and broke them in half while perched on doming monkey bars. No children had been there in decades, no adults in hours, judging by the piles of garbage. The empty swing sets would always creak. You palmed over endless streams of silver quarters at laundromats and slept under the dryer's spinning eyes. You took the roads parallel to the highway. Sometimes you got out and walked, hand in hand, and sometimes you almost found the barrier you were looking for. You made it to the coast. There, the benches were rotting. The docks were rotting. The red and white stripes in the White House were rotting. You put your hand on the building's side and walked in circles. Where to next? You asked as you dragged your toes across the salt, slippery reflections on the ground. Remember how you fell? Do you remember the ice-cold weight of the water? I don't. I've never felt anything like it, but I felt you then. Felt your hand for the first time since you shook mine in your sleeping friend's room. I don't know where you fell or how long it took you to reach there, but I reached there too. Your eyes are trying to focus. I can still feel your face, but it's only moments before other people, real people like you, break into this hospital room and wonder how you got here. Tell me, when you were little, you had an imaginary friend. Do you remember? Whew. Go ahead, Brandon.
This is this kind of mystical piece because I would say that most children develop an imaginary friend. You and me, Kevin, I know we were both only children.
What? I never had an imaginary friend.
Well, I know when I was younger I did because, lonely kid, imagination runs wild, You need something to fill your time.
Yeah. Especially, we're both only children, so
yeah.
That was a joke earlier. I definitely had an imaginary friend, 100%. We're both only children, so there was many times where we were alone for many hours.
Yeah, and this kind of being written from the perspective of that friend that can't really say that they were ever there, but can't say that they never left you. And have never really been able to interact with you, but have always been looking out for you, and in some ways apparently has been trying to affect your life.
Yeah, that's an interest. I hadn't seen it from that perspective, actually. That's very interesting. I was seeing it as maybe this was the actual imaginary friend.
Well, no, I think it is.
Oh, okay.
But my point is, it seems like there's this wall separating these two people. One they call imaginary, one's real. Yeah. And I guess near-death experiences kind of break the wall a bit.
Close. Yeah, there's three parts in this story. You can break this down into the first part, which you meet the imaginary friend as a child. And you're at a sleeping party, basically, and you shake its hand because you're polite. And that's kind of the perspective, again, from the imaginary friend. And the second one is there's a part in here where I believe the main character is driving around and came close to the barrier. Do you remember that part in the story?
Yeah, the barrier you were looking for?
Yeah, you came close. It's like you were searching for me almost. We were very close. We were right there, walking hand in hand, but you didn't know it, but you were so close. So this is this kind of idea that this imaginary friend has been there all along. And then the third time is when the person fell, be it either an accident or on purpose, we don't know. But at that point, the imaginary friend was able to break this barrier, or at least cross it somehow, and brought them to a hospital room. That's astounding to me. I mean, if you really think about it, that's one both amazing and kind of terrifying too. So I had some pretty strange imaginary friends. If those were real, still following me around. Boy, I hope they're like guardian angels, because I've neglected them quite heavily most recently.
I just remember some weird haze.
Yeah.
Something I talked to, something.
You haven't crossed the barrier yet, Brandon. No, this piece is so good, though.
Yeah.
I'm sad I wasn't able to air it a long time ago, but we were doing short pieces at the time, and this one was, it's obviously pretty hefty, but man, it's so good. And it's such, I don't want to say like dystopian, but it paints a very kind of slow, calm picture of this person's life, like this exploration almost.
Yeah, it kind of goes from childhood innocence to sort of teen angst, that's, first road trip by yourself, not listening to your parents' concerns, just going and letting it ride, doing everything as cheaply as possible, eating breakfast in McDonald's every day sounds like they were sleeping at laundromats and that kind of stuff.
And honestly, too, on a different level, I would say this is like a love story, because this
maybe.
Yeah, I would say my argument for it would be this imaginary friend has been there this entire person's life and only wants to be with them. And at the one point where it's needed most, it's able to actually help out, which to me is just, that's love in my eyes. But man, such a good piece. Thank you, A.E. Kellogg. This was fantastic. I think that's all I had to point out on it. So I guess we'll swing into the next one.
Yes.
So these next two are by Lillie. Anastasia, if you're listening, you'll know who this is. And the next one is Society, I believe?
Yes, it is entitled Society.
I have no backgrounds on these pieces, but I believe this one had some interesting stylistic choices.
Yes, and when I read this, a couple things might sound strange, and we'll explain after.
Well, two times first, just to preface it. There are a few lines in here that were specifically crossed out.
Yes.
For author's choice, and he'll read them and he'll kind of try to make a point by saying like no crossed out or something like that. Yep. But we'll go back and kind of hash it. But here, we'll go ahead and dive into it. This is Society.
Take a moment. Behold, they are the majority. Sticky, paste-on smiles as they meet your eyes, sing without seeing. They are all around you, haunting what we coin society. A well-oiled human crossed-out machine. And they can't have room for intellect, nor room for dreams, nor room for hobbies, nor personality, nor friendships, nor companionship. No room for the soul. They are the majority. Do you see them? Just you wait. The American dream is yours for the taking too. And we love to enslave, crossed out, have you. Welcome to humanity. Welcome, crossed out. Goodbye, crossed out. Never mind.
That's a good piece.
Yes. Yes, it is.
So let's go over and point out these crossed out words real quick.
There are 4 lines in here that have these words crossed out. One is it's written as a well-oiled human machine with the word human crossed out. Next is, and we'd love to enslave, and the word enslave is crossed out, have you. And then in the last 3 lines, there's welcome as its own line crossed out, goodbye as its own line crossed out.
Yeah. So read together again, that's like a well-oiled machine. What this is doing in effect is pulling out. There's an undercurrent here. We'll say it that way. Yeah. There's pulling out humanity, and there's enslaving humanity, and there's no welcome. There's no goodbye. There's no intimacy here. And at the very end, the last line, never mind, is almost like a giving up. Just, I'm done with this. I don't take anymore. Take a moment, behold. They're the majority. Sticky, pasted-on smiles, like all these people who are not fake, but they're our society, deemed. And they're all moving in one direction, not doing much. Go ahead.
Well, in my opinion, this is kind of a comment on, what society is. When you take a focus on the big picture, on the majority, you realize that as majority, humans are boring. Humans, when you get them together, they choose the safe choice. They choose the kind of heartless choice. You know, there's always that old saying, for the greater good, do the most for the most people sort of thing. And you see that in democracy and in most societies, that when you get a lot of people together, they put on a fake smile, they say the niceties, they kind of look past you, and they do what's best for the group because they don't want to cause trouble. They don't want to stir up anything, because individuality is great in a smaller group where you can address any problems, but once you get into a large majority, once you get into society, being an individual is sometimes problematic, especially if you don't go with the flow.
Yeah, and I mean, even what this is touching on as well, there is no depth to the relationships. There is no core features that you kind of relate on. It's just, there's no hobbies, there's no personality, nor friendships, nor companionship. No room for the soul is one of the lines in here. They're the majority. So the majority of these people live these empty, just kind of cyclical lives that go over and over, of basically what you just touched on.
Yeah.
And it's the American dream, though. This is what it is. This is what we want. This is the pristine world. This is what we see in the advertising. But it's empty. It's just clearly empty.
Well, because the American dream is a four-corner house with a white picket fence in a suburban neighborhood with a wife or a husband, a couple of kids, and a dog or a cat, whatever your preference is, some pet of some description. And that doesn't work for everybody.
No. We love to enslave, have you. There's this duality of, even the author is trying to say, like, no, this is like slavery almost. Like, I can't function this way. This doesn't make any sense. And then at the very end, they just give up. You know what? This is what it is. I can't fight against it. There's too many people doing it. I'm done. Never mind. This just kind of like throwing in the towel. Like, this is it.
Yeah, it's if you don't fit into society, you have problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that one was titled Society,
Yes.
appropriately enough. The next one is also by Lillie, and this one is called Intimate. No background on this piece, so we'll just go ahead and dive right into it. Intimate by Lillie. There's a lot of things I could say. Now that I have you before me, the palpitations of my heart and its dream to spew away my poker face, I am captivated by your smile. I bite my tongue, the blood of secrecy and silence losing its flavor to, how are you? These unheard sentiments are desperate and will ooze out of my eyes and mouth and pores until I am nothing but empty flesh in pieces at your feet. God, man, that one reads so fast. It's like a snapping of a whip, in my opinion. It hits you. Any takes on this?
This is, I think it reads fast because it's meant to, because this is kind of like that snap decision, but biting your tongue in that moment when you want to blurt something out.
Yeah, I could see that. There's a lot of things I could say. I see it's almost like hidden love in a form. I bite my tongue, the blood of secrecy and silence losing its flavor to a mundane, how are you, I guess. I don't know what else. I can't say anything more. But everything I am, these unheard sentiments are desperate and will ooze out of my eyes and pores and mouth. That is so potent. It's like my entire essence is looking for you, wants to tell you that I like you, or I like this, or whatever this yearning is.
Yeah, it wants to get out by any method it can. But you're biting your tongue.
Yeah.
You're stopping it from wagging.
And what is it doing? It is consuming you until I am nothing but empty flesh and pieces at your feet. At your feet specifically. That's who I'm going towards. Oh man, this piece is so, so beautiful. There are a lot of things I could say now that I have you before me. It reads almost like just a snippet of a thought. This train of just like, and it kind of like freaks out. This person's there, and they do nothing because they can't.
That's what I mean by it reads fast, because that snap moment. Just, you see them, and there's this moment where you think, I can say it now. I can let it out. I can let it out. I can let it out. And then you just have to bite your tongue and just go with the normal, casual conversation.
Yeah. Oh, no, that makes... I see what you're saying now. These unheard sentiments are desperate. There's definitely that element of desperation there, too. Man, intimate. What an appropriately named title as well. Intimate, but the issue with this piece is there's a lack of intimacy. We can't get that intimacy.
Well, maybe not a lack of intimacy, more...
Yeah,
trying to figure out how to say it, because it's not that this relationship they're describing lacks intimacy. It maybe lacks romantic intimacy.
Yeah. Or at least an intimacy that one party wants and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
It could be romantic or really any form. I suppose there aren't really a lot of different... Well, I guess there are. I don't know.
Friendship's easy, Kevin.
Friendship is easy.
Romantics are hard.
That is true. These unheard sentiments, that does kind of lean towards romantics, I would say. Man, my favorite line in this is, "and will ooze out of my eyes and mouth and pores." That to me is just, it blows my mind. It blows it so much.
Yeah. I love a lot of what Lillie writes. I especially love what Miss A.E. Kellogg writes. I still remember a piece from several months ago that I believe was how to spot fair folk at rest stops.
Yes, something. Yeah, yes. Very close. Yeah.
Yes, and that's wonderful. I love these two authors. Love it when they submit.
Yeah.
Read all these fun things.
And thank you for that piece, Lillie. Intimate. Man, I'm a fan of all of your writing and all of A.E. Kellogg's writing too. All these are just phenomenal. Jeez.
Yeah, so Society reminded me of a piece I was shown back in, I think it was high school. You guys can probably still find it online. I can't remember if it's America or American spelled backwards.
The Namira or something like that.
Yeah, and it's
Namarina, I think.
Yes, something like that. Just spell it backwards, and it's a really it's written in this really generalized speech that describes common American practices from a different perspective that at first you're reading it and this just sounds weird and strange, and then you realize at the end it's talking about things that you probably do every day or have done.
Yeah, I actually read that one recently, and some of the examples in there are, and these people would go, it's supposed to be an anthropological discussion of human society, but they kind of see it from a different perspective. And they say they have these rituals where they stick these plastic sticks in their mouth and scrub their bony spurs. Brushing your teeth is what they're talking about.
And then there's another about keeping jars. It's pretty much describing how everyone keeps medicine and pills way past their date in cabinets in their bathroom. Yeah. And it has this wonderful way of describing it that just sounds strange and archaic and old, almost like you're looking back on a dead society.
Yeah, and Lillie's piece definitely touches on that kind of difference, a different perspective of what's going on with society. Like this was one where it's one of emptiness and almost slavery, and then eventually just giving up at the end. Yeah, it's kind of like, I can't do it.
It's a really outside perspective of society, looking at it kind of just entirely objectively without any overall bias.
Yeah, my favorite line in that one is probably the end. Never mind, because you can read it so many different ways. But
I would love it if you guys could actually see the piece, because reading it with the way this is crossed out, it's like someone is writing this down as like a letter or something, and they went to. I love the ending as well, because it's like, welcome. No, that's not right. Goodbye. No, just never mind here.
Yeah, there's just a frustration there, which is honestly, when looking at society, of those who don't fit in the majority mold, you could say, it's never mind.
Yeah,
you can't get the point across. Almost, there's so many kind of things that are barriers there. Sticky, pasted on smiles. Well, we have a few minutes left, and I want to look over these pieces very quickly. The first one was Limina, which was, I would say, perspective of an imaginary friend.
Yeah, I love the way Kellogg writes, because it's, once again, I brought up, how to spot fair folk at rest stops, because she writes very much pieces that look at common things and make them very uncommon.
Yes. Which really, that's the theme for Lillie's moving forward as well.
Yeah.
You see this society thing, which talk about things being, common things being uncommon, the majority would see this and go, what are you talking about? And those people who don't quite fit in or can't really need depth, I will say, can't subscribe to it. And then the last piece, intimacy, I mean, that's it completely. There's this undercurrent of things that want to be said but can't be for who knows what reasons, but there's a barrier there. There's a lack of intimacy or a want of it. It's just brilliant. I don't know how else to say it.
In a way, intimacy, you can take it in any way, because we've almost all had this moment, either wanting to say something nice to someone, or, you have that really bad boss or that really bad coworker, and you see them and you want to scream your head off at them, but you just bite your tongue and be like, how are you today?
Yeah, I didn't think about taking that as this, I mean, would probably err towards more romantic, but I mean, it could go any direction, really. Which is,
if you take away the title, it can go any which way, I think.
Very interesting, which is why we need writers to come on here, the people who wrote these, and talk about them. That way we can get,
If you can't make it to Chico, call-ins are possible. We have the setup here in the studio.
That is true. Well, so we had A. Kellogg and Lillie. Thank you guys for submitting tonight. This was wonderful.
Yes, I always love when you two submit. I'd like it if more people submitted.
Yes.
I like to see other people's writing styles, other people's work.
Yeah.
And once again, you can submit at write.onair@gmail.com. That's write.onair@gmail.com.
Yes, and then shortly after this, hopefully within a couple of days, I will have this on YouTube. The next episodes, so for those of you who missed the live show, can catch it on there. And I think that's it. Thank you, A.E. Kellogg. Thank you, Lillie. I appreciate that. Writing on Air is made possible by the generous contributions of KZFR supporters and by Harrison Daily Wright Accountancy Corporation in Chico. Harrison Daily Wright provides certified public accountants specializing in accounting and bookkeeping services, auditing, tax prep and planning, management support, services for nonprofit organizations, and more. To reach Harrison Daily Wright, call 895-1209. And that's it for me. Have a good night, everyone.